Do you know how many people calculate their CRS score wrong? So in this video, I will be covering in detail as to how to calculate your CRS score properly and what are the common mistakes people make. And also there are some myths we will bust along the way, right? So I have basically made a list of kind of 5 profiles. I'll go with that and even more. And so stay tuned till the very end. So before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Sandhu. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant based out of Ontario, Canada. And here's the disclaimer. So this is only for informational purposes and should not be construed as legal advice. If you want one, you can book a consultation. So let's dive right into it, right? So if you see what I've done on the left side is I've created different profiles, right? Profile 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And on the right side, we have a CRS calculator. This is available on the website, and anybody can use this to have estimate their CRS score, right? Even they have put a legal disclaimer, right? Because if there is sometime the tool might not produce the right information, in that case, make sure the ministerial instructions would have the right information. So let's look at the very first profile, which is very, very common among a lot of students who have, after grade 12, have come to Canada and did a 2-year diploma program, and they're around 22 years of age. They have a good language scores, 1 year experience in Canada, no foreign experience. And let's see what kind of score would they get. So let's say if they are not married, so it's single, how old are they? I can choose anywhere between 20 to 29 because the scores are highest for that. Let's choose 22, as we were mentioning, then say, what is the highest level of education, right? So this education could be from anywhere in the world. So it could be Canadian, non-Canadian, right? But if it's outside of Canada, for example, you did bachelor's or diploma outside Canada, so you need to produce the education credential assessment, right? So which will tell the equivalency. But in our case, we have 2 year of diploma, and then it's asked, is it a Canadian degree diploma? Yes, right? So that's our profile. And then it says, what is it? So we know that it's a 1 or 2 year diploma. And then it's asked for the language. So we say, you know what, it's the IELTS, right? So this is CLB 10, right? So this is CLB 10, this CLB 9. So let's look at the CLB 9, and I'm going to give CLB 9 for this person. And let's say they do not have a French language score, and they have 1 year experience in Canada in a high skilled occupation. High skilled is defined as tier 0, 1, 2, 3. And they do not have any foreign experience. They just came after grade 12. They are not working in trades, or they don't even have certificate of qualification, which can give a little bit extra points, which is specifically for, trade occupations as such. So let's say no. And let's say they don't have a job offer. Anyway, the job offer points are getting removed. As per the news, the minister is saying that by spring, so they will get rid of those points. So I'm not going to add that right now. So no nomination. And let's say they do not have anyone, any brother, sister who is a Canadian citizen or permanent resident and above 18 years of age. So let's calculate the scores, right? So we see that the scores are kind of broadly classified into 4 categories. So you have the core human capital factors, spousal factors, skill transferability factors, and additional points, right? So total scores is out of 1200. And let's see how many scores have they got. So they got the highest point for age, for level of education is 98. Official languages, they got 128, 124, and the core factors is 372. So they are unmarried, so they don't have a spouse or common law partner. So there are 0 scores. Skill transferability, there are 38 points. And they have study in Canada. They did a 2-year program in Canada, so it's 15. So it's 425. So obviously this score is not enough, right? So if this person is looking at, for example, a Canadian experience class draw, so these draws are hovering around 500. So it's very unlikely this person would qualify for that. So now let's change one thing. Let's say instead of a 2-year diploma, this person did a 3-year diploma or 3-year bachelor's or more, right? So let's look at their education and change that, right? So let's say it's a 3-year diploma, and let me see. So I have to change it here as well. And let's see if there's any change in the score as well. Earlier it was 425. So there is a score of 460. Still not enough, right, to beat the cutoff which is needed, unless this person, maybe in health or, for example, in trades, maybe there is a chance But to be very sure, for Canadian experience class, probably he or she needs a much higher score. So now I'm just going to play around with, I will go back and change the education back to, for example, a 1 or 2 year diploma, and we will should be back to 425 score. So I will say now show you the impact of, let's say, French language proficiency, right? So let's say this person also have a second language in French. So any test could be okay. Let's say give TCF, right? And then this is CLB 10, 9, 8, 7. So it's CLB 7. So I'm going to give all the CLB level 7 for this person. And let's see how much are the scores for that. So if I just do that, so the scores now are 487. Now, this is a very decent score from two perspectives. One, now this person would be most likely eligible for all French draws, which has happened till now, till the day we are recording, right? So the scores have always in the French has been much lesser than this. So there's a very high chance as such. Plus, at some point in time, even if the Canadian experience class draw comes, I mean, maybe by third quarter of this year, right? So there is a chance that the scores might reach at this stage, and he or she can get invited just by that, right? So that's number one profile, right? So let's look at the number two profile, right? So this person is again the same 2 year diploma, but instead of a 1 year experience in Canada, this person has 2 years experience in Canada, right? So I'm going to get rid of the basically the French scores. So I'm going to say no French score. So we know that it's going to come to 425 in that case, right? So now all I'm going to do is increase the scores for the Canadian work experience. Instead of 1 year, now it's 2 years, right? So we know that if it's 2 years, you will get slightly extra points, right? So what will happen in this case is, so Canadian work experience, instead of getting 40 points, you got 13 more points. So it became 53. So now the score is 450. Again, that's not enough score at all, right? Now we know also from the thing that if I were to increase French, right, add French mix at CLB level 7, this person's score would be around 500, close to 500 or even more. We can try that, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be what will happen, right? So nonetheless, now this person, hopefully, let's say he, instead of having this 2 year experience, he have only 1 year experience in Canada, but 1 year foreign experience, right? Remember, we earlier had a score of 450. Now, just I'm changing the mix. Instead of he said, you know what, let me not stay in Canada. Let me go back to my country. Let's say it's India or Philippines, and let me do 1 year program there, right? Oh, sorry, not 1 year program, excuse me, a 1 year experience, gain 1 year high skilled experience. So now instead of 450, the score has become 463, right? So just imagine that 2 year experience in Canada versus 1 year experience in Canada, and 1 year experience outside Canada is better, right? So this is another revelation which is important to understand. There are a lot of people who are saying, oh, we don't want to go back. Sometimes just going back and gaining the experience might give you an edge. Secondly, if you're looking at category based draws, right? So which is like healthcare, trades, and even French, for example, if you gain even 6 months experience in outside Canada, if you can't find that same job here, so you will have a much bigger advantage by gaining that experience outside Canada, because most people have a better connections outside Canada versus inside Canada, and they would may be able to find a better job, right? So that's number one. So now let me go back and let's say, let's go back to 0 experience and 2 years experience. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to now again give the French CLB level 7, right, score to you. Let's say if this happens, now your scores are 512, right? So nothing has changed. So what this profile is specifically, this person is only done 2 years of diploma, right? And they have 2 years of Canadian experience, but they are getting French score of 12 here, okay, second language score of 12, and they are getting another 50 points right there, right? So they're getting 62 points just because of French. So that is basically boosted their score to 512, right? So this is how French language makes a huge, huge difference, right? So let's get rid of French again, because now we're going to look into profile 4 and profile 5, and we're going to look at the people who are married, right? So we will look into that. So let me get rid of French. Where is French? So right here. So I'm going to say not applicable, and then we are back to square one. So which is basically uh, 450. And let's reduce even the experience of Canadian experience to 1 year. And now let's say this, let's look at this profile, right? So let's just start from the very beginning, right? So this person is now married, right? But his spouse is obviously, let's assume, not a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. And let's say he or she is not planning to accompany this person, right? So let's say no, right? In that case, and let's put the age as 29. So I'm just putting 29 because that's probably is possible. But now his education, highest education is master's, right? So the education is master's. Is it from Canada? Yes. So it's from Canada, right? And official score, I'm going to keep it CLB 9, which is 777 and 8 in listening. And foreign experience, I'm just going to put 1 year of experience here, and maybe 3 years experience outside of Canada, right? So if that were to be what we have, so let me see what is the score, right? So they are getting pretty good score right now. Their score is 539 score, right? So just imagine that somebody who has done 2 years masters from Canada and CLB 9, 1 year experience in Canada, 3 years in foreign experience, that person would get 539 score, which is very, very high score. And let's say they don't even have any foreign experience. Let's see what will happen in that case, right? So even if they don't have foreign experience, right? So let me just make the foreign experience 0. Let me see how many points they will get in that case. So if you do it now, it's still 489, right? So obviously this is slightly less than 500, but they still have a meaningful chance, right? But if they gain 1 year experience also from outside of Canada, in that case, huge impact, huge impact. So their score would fly past 500. So let me just do that. So 1 year experience in Canada, 1 year experience, let's say outside Canada. Now their score is still 527. Very, very high score, right? And I don't even think that I need to add French, but if I do add French, I don't know, the scores would fly like really, really touch very high score, right? So let's do that, right? So let's do TEF. Let's do TEF right now. So let's say this CLB7, 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 CLB7. Okay, so let me just try that. So now if you see, we got again 12 points for the language, plus we get additional 50 points here as well. So this person scored 589. So now people say, oh, without LMI, you cannot get more than 500. Do you see here? This person's score is 589 with 1 year Canadian experience, 1 year foreign experience, CLB 9, and 2 years of masters in Canada. So much easier to get this kind of score, right? So now let me just get rid of the language score, which is French. So let's go back, right? And let's calculate the scores for this person again. So we have this 527 score, right? So this is the 527 score. So what we have here is, again, married, but the spouse is not accompanying, 29 years of age, masters from Canada, right? And language score CLB 9, 1 year work experience in Canada, 1 year in foreign work experience, and nothing else pretty much, right? So we have a score of 527. Now, some people say if I'm going to add his wife, his score will go down, right? It may in some of the cases. Actually, in most of the cases, it may go down by slightly, right? But it's not going to be too much difference, right? So let me show you how. Let's say now the spouse is accompanying, right? So the moment I say yes to this, so there will be more drop downs will open up here, right? So in that case, we have now. So let's say this wife has done bachelor's, right? So let's assume she has done bachelor's and she has the ECA for that. Let's say from India, and she's living with her spouse in Canada and has 1 year of experience in Canada in tier 0, 1, 2, 3. and they and her let's say her for example, a score is also CLB 9, right? Now let's see how much the score differ, right? The score actually increased by 1 point, right? So a lot of people say that it's always going to decrease, right? No, that's not going to happen, because for spousal factors, these are the factors under spouse, right? So what happens is they break these factors, the core human capital factors and the spouse factors. Let's assume this is 100%, right? So what happens is, if if the spouse is unaccompanied, so all 100 points are based on the principal applicant. And if the spouse is accompanying, so those 100 points get divided into, let's say, 80 versus 20, something like some ratio of that, right? So what happens is, now spouse has her own points, right? And and the principal applicant will have his or her own points, right? But the total points out of which they will get the points is now a lesser, right? So instead of under, like, let's say earlier they were getting points out of 500, now they will get points out of 460. And these 40 points will be spousal factors. Out of this 40, this spouse was able to gain 33 points. That's why actually the scores increase, right? And if I were to make the spouse, let's say, masters, right, the score might even increase further, right? So if you see here, the score is now 530. So actually having the spouse company will made more sense in this specific case. So what we kind of gist of the whole exercise I want to let you know is that there are many ways you can play around with this specific tool, and there are few conclusions we could make. So one is, definitely we know that the language scores have a huge impact, right? If I score, if even if you score less in, let's say, one of these scores, it will have an impact, right? It will have an impact. First of all, aim for CLB 9. So that's the most important thing you need to understand. So because the moment the scores go down, I just reduce half a score in one of the factors, and you see the scores have gone down by almost 19 points, right? So this means that language score CLB 9 is really important, because there are many kind of factors which combine in making sure that, higher CLB 9 will give you slightly advantage. Another is French scores. Everybody knows about that, but CLB 7 would have a huge impact, because then you will be eligible for a French draw as well. Third thing we learned is that gaining 1 year experience in Canada, 2 years experience in Canada is worse than having 1 year experience in Canada and 1 year experience in let's say your home country, right? Because they give you some advantage under the skill transferability factor. So this is the factor where they will have some advantage. And another thing is that there are certain certifications, like certificate of qualification, not easy to get, mostly for trades occupations. If somebody has certificate of qualification, they can maximum get it up to 50 points as well. But if you have already maximized, these scores, for example, this person has not maximized, this person has got 76, right? And let me just go back and change the language scores again to speaking to 7, and let me go back and then calculate the score. So now if you see here, this person is already kind of maximized very, very close to, the maximum you can get is 100 points. Out of that is already 88. Even if this person has a certificate of qualification, that would not have any major impact whatsoever, right? Because this person has already kind of maximized those scores. Now, another thing is 3-year advanced diploma versus a 2-year diploma. 3-year diploma also benefits a lot. Why? Because in that case, you get, not only you will get the points for this specific thing, which is the level of education here, right? Level of education points will be higher for a 2-year diploma versus a 3-year diploma or bachelor's. Also, you will also get additional points here, study in Canada. So if it's a 1 or 2-year diploma or certificate or whatever, it's going to be 15 points. But if it's a master's, PhD, or even a 3-year advanced diploma, you get 30 points. So there's some advantage there as well. So I hope you like this video. Please do like and subscribe to the channel. So I'm trying to do a PR 2025 series where I will be talking about all different ways in which you can get your PR. So stay tuned and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.